Okay, after a number of unsuccessful attempts with Streamlabs, I'm going back to just Restream for the time being. And hopefully this gets us started. At a minimum, I'd like to get an audio check and make sure the audio is fine. Maybe we'll see if the video is fine. Okay, it looks like something's happening finally. Okay, we are live. January 21st, 2025, 10:11 p.m. We're on all the audio platforms. We're on YouTube and Odyssey. And I believe we have a Twitch going for us. So if you're in the chat, just say hello. And I want to go ahead and hand out wrenches this evening. And I also want to get an idea of what my volume is doing. I want to make sure it's okay. I hate to do these tests live. I should have taken care of this earlier, but at least we're back on. I had to replace the computer, but I managed to find something pretty quickly today. Okay, good. Well, one step at a time. First, we're just going to be all black. So we have no... All right, so audio's on. Just no screen yet. No screen yet. I'm trying to decide what to do here. It's a bunch of tangled nonsense. I don't think anybody cares. But Streamlabs, just so you know, they're crazy. It's just crazy. You know, you sign in, you hit the wrong YouTube account, you're stuck with the wrong YouTube account, and you have to contact customer service to unplug it, plug in the real one, and it's a big juggling act. So I've been working on it all day to no avail. But as I said before, we're just going to go with blank screen, and we'll pick up from here. So we're not going to be able to watch Elon Musk Sig Heil on a loop. People are tripping over it. And who's that group? I don't know if it was the ADL, but one of these groups said that they don't think it's really a Nazi salute, but it's just what happens if you're super excited, like he is, which is kind of cool, I guess. And that's like an excuse, I guess. I mean, I don't understand why all of a sudden they're not going to condemn the most blatant, non-dog whistling shout out to the far, far right. At least that's how they're taking it. Nick Fuentes is taking it that way. Somebody says the audio sounds far away. Let me see if I can figure that. That's because I'm using Restream. So I haven't had to, I've been working on this all day, but I've been unable to get Streamlabs to work. And that's their fault. They have this really terrible system. In fact, this is like deja vu, because I've been through this exact same scenario before, where I sign up and realize it's unworkable, and I have to jump back. But I don't want to spend the night talking about it. There's so many other things going on. I feel like time's just slipping away. I did come up with an interesting development having to do with a personal legal matter versus a stalker who works for Donald Trump. I've uncovered a new alias and fake. And this guy has a fake name, a fake persona, and even pictures. And he writes this story from this person's perspective. And I looked into this person's LinkedIn, and it turns out that it's not really a person, but it's a deep fake. And he's publishing a book about the contents of Hunter Biden's niece's diary. I mean, riveting stuff, but we'll get into it later. What else do we have? We have, in fact, I would like to get back onto the regular setup because I have this video I want to play. It's a when I saw Billy Ray Cyrus go out onto the inauguration stage where they were having this inauguration ball, he came out looking like Rob Zombie, which is kind of weird. I don't know if it means anything. I mean, we could just say this is just crazy, inebriated Billy Ray Cyrus. But no, there might be something more to it because he came out and he was compared to Rob Zombie. And Rob Zombie had just announced a tour. Maybe these things aren't connected, but I think it was Daily Star. There's some newspaper where they put Donald Trump on the cover and they called him a zombie. Dawn of the Dead, like the zombie back to life. So I don't know. There's some interesting concerted messaging all over this whole thing. The Roman salute, and now the Roman salute thing would also make sense if you look at the bigger context of who Elon Musk is. And again, he's a Frankenstein. Like, some people knock him for the way he talks, the way he pauses, and they'll say he's so smart, he has to condense his message into simplistic terms that we can understand. And that's why he sounds like it. And people assume this is true. It's a clever trick. It's like the Mechanical Turk. They assume that there's something in there. And no, I'm saying he's copying Nick Bostrom, the simulation guy. If you listen to the conversation that Joe Rogan had with this Nick Bostrom, he's a philosopher, it seems like Musk has adopted this guy's affectation, his manner of speaking is just totally ripped off. And I've been saying for some time, Musk is a composite. So he's part Nick Bostrom. He's got a great deal, I think, of Warner von Braun in his presentation. And it's kind of funny is people are talking about how he fakes his video gaming prowess. Like he hires somebody else to go through all the different levels, and then he's like, "Look at me, guys! I'm on level 33. I'm like this great player," and yet he doesn't know how to do anything. Like he's lost in the shop trying to buy a sword or something, and he can't figure it out. It's like, how did he get here? Well, clearly he has help, and people are laughing like that he would fake something like that, like his ego or something. They're blaming, and I'm like, they have no idea the extent of the fakery. It's not just faking being good at video games. How about faking rockets into space? I mean, it's so deep. It's funny how people are so compartmentalized about this whole thing. And we can't take this out of context. The fact that space travel is fake has tremendous implications for not just Musk and NASA, but even Trump and his proximity to Musk. It's not like Musk is one clever person faking the world out. No, he's part of the infrastructure of systemic fakery on the rigged world stage. They're all just clowns in this big clown show. So it's funny that people take sides. It's like, oh, look, he released the January Sixers. No, they got a pay raise because they lied to you so well. Shout out to Ashley Babbitt, who's not dead. In fact, she's shown up at a MAGA rally, I'm pretty sure. Joe Saunders says, I fake being good at video games. Wayne Dion says, he seems like a giant child on stages with... Yeah, it was kind of a funny juxtaposition looking at Musk next to Barron Trump, the time traveler. Is that the whole thing? Barron Trump, time traveler. It's funny how the nonners create all sorts of fan fiction around the Trumps and their wardrobe. It's kind of almost surreal. You have all these hardcore MAGAs who are ready to fight the deep state. They're talking about Guantanamo and mass executions. And the next minute, they're all just talking about Melania Trump's dress. Or in this case, the hat, which is kind of weird. She's wearing this hat at it looks like a funeral, the way she's dressed. Everything looks so somber. But they're at this inauguration, which was kind of surreal in itself. It was just so small and contained. And she's wearing this hat that kind of makes her look like the Hamburglar. And then you remember Trump in McDonald's. I don't know what kind of messages they're sending there. But the nonners are convinced that her hat looks like Princess Diana's hat. Therefore, I don't know, the deep state. They have this whole fantasy that Princess Diana is still alive and that she's the mother of Barron Trump. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting to think about. If she's the mother of Barron Trump, Princess Diana, and she's still alive, and JFK Jr. also had an affair with Diana, doesn't that create some friction between JFK Jr. and Trump? It's very convoluted. But I'm saying it's fan fiction. It's user-generated fan fiction, and it fills up their own fictional universe. It's incredible. And what I also find notable here is the lack of continuity. Like one year they're worried about cannibals from Haiti. The next year it's about cat eaters. One focus of theirs was save the children from blood drinking Democrats, and now it's save the children from liberal indoctrination in the schools. Like their messaging kind of changes, and it goes from one extreme to something kind of mild, and they never address the original stuff. So I don't hear any of them talking about how it's incongruent with their belief system that Hillary Clinton's even still alive. You know, they all believe, or they used to believe, they used to profess that all these celebrities were executed, and we were watching some kind of a grotesque puppet show with all kinds of fake body doubles, basically, so that they could gradually let us in on the fact that it's all just a movie. This has been a narrative of the QAnons for some time where they openly admit that they live in a movie. And they say it like it's some kind of insight, like they know something. And it's like, no, you entered into an alternate reality game, essentially a collective delusion. And it's not an awakening. It's actually the opposite. It's an endarkenment. It's a place full of paranoia and superstition. I'm just saying, I mean, maybe it's a healthy thing that they kind of forgot their original purpose, these QAnoners, and now they're just basically Trumpers, which is, I'm not knocking that. However, I'm going to say it's masterful that all those people, conspiracy theorists, people who don't trust the news, who would have arrived at the correct conclusions, who would have figured out the extent of the fakery and the manipulation, instead just became addicted to agitprop and propaganda and became involved in partisan politics. It's like a perfect system for filtering minds, and nobody gets out. Okay, so let me just double check. I'm going through my links here. It looks like we still have sound on Odyssey. And then, yeah, Trump did the Hawk Tua on a meme coin. Unbelievable. $58 billion, is that what it was? And the number 58 is huge with Trump. You know, I'm going to do a deep dive on each number. I was talking to someone about this today. It's like I could do a deep dive on the number 19 or 42. And these things are mind-blowing, especially the mind mapped. This isn't some gematria thing where they're just like, today is 666 days since this movie came out, and therefore the world's going to end today. And it doesn't. And it never does. No, we're not making vague predictions. We're not connecting dots. I'm pointing out objectively timed and coordinated, essentially press releases. You know, replace fake news with press release. You know, it's just a story they're publishing, and it's all synchronized with the entertainment. But within this, we have noted the use of symbolism and numbers to communicate certain ideas. I mean, it's intriguing. The number 33 in particular, or 42, which Musk has driven a tremendous amount of attention to. Ollie Goering asks, did you see Bob Nodal? No, a number of people told me he was at the coronation, but no, I haven't seen the picture yet. I will look. In fact, I bookmarked it. There's so much I need to catch up on. Yeah, Lean Dion, her Twin Tower dress. That is true. That is kind of weird. Melania was wearing a dress that showed Twin Towers getting hit by a truck on a plane on the back, and then they're looking at the Washington Monument. It's just bizarre stuff. They're always sending weird messages, that's for sure. But it's not to the QAnoners. It's got to be some kind of internal communication. And what they did the other day, so Trump and Melania are holding hands looking at these fireworks, and it looks reminiscent of the end scene in Fight Club when they hit the reset and all the buildings fall. And then that has been further compared to a scene from Leave the World Behind. And I'll bring up all these graphics tomorrow. By the way, I saw Donald Trump swinging a sword, dancing with the village people. They had a great time. And from what I heard about this, it's not even the original village people. It's like some former member bought the rights and just hired a bunch of people to pretend to be the originals. It's not really original. The originals aren't represented there. Not that it matters. None of this stuff makes any sense. And the QAnoners say that YMCA is code for Guantanamo and the execution of Hillary Clinton and Obama. They have this hate obsession with Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton is there laughing at Trump's joke about turning the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America, which I think they're really doing. Constant Elevation says Melania's hamburger hat was to signify that they saved kids from McDonald's human meat farm. Yeah, we had a debate about this. McDonald's, what are they serving? Human meat or life extension? What do you think? And I've been arguing that in all likelihood, they would be selling life extension and not human meat because their business is making money, profiting off their customers. It wouldn't serve their interests to get rid of their customers or to make them ill. If anything, they have a vested interest in the long-term survival. I mean, that's what food is for, so you can live. I don't operate on the premise that everything is poison and we should all just live in fear, which is where truthers are at. They're terrified of convenience stores. Not the threat of being robbed and shot, which is common, but no, they're scared of like the ingredients on the backs of these snack foods because everything is toxic. Okay, so 2511 timestamp. Ollie Goering, thank you for that. I will take a look. So let me go ahead and save that bookmark. And I will take a look. I highly doubt it's him. Be a bizarre twist. I've had it with the final experiment. I mean, Antarctica's flat. What were they trying to prove? Something else. I'm not going to be bullied or cajoled or pressured into accepting somebody's secondhand account of something. Not if there's a shadow of a doubt that it might be false. And there's a lot of reasons why we can rule that thing out as scientific. Too much bias, too much vitriol and bile, all around just a real nasty thing. I would not have gone if I had to share a tent with those individuals. Nothing pleasant about it. And the way they're handling the critics is deplorable. I would be laughing. I'd be saying, wow, who could imagine that you could take a trip to the South Pole and make it look fake? Because it shouldn't even be possible to make it look fake. Just give the benefit of the doubt that it was real. They accomplished a miracle by making something so almost mundane. Just take a trip, land, get out, take some video, and they managed to screw that up. It's funny. Vape Gate's funny, but you know, that's a dark side. I think we kind of hinted at it the other day. Anybody know about Wits It, Spits It? I'm kind of inspired, actually. I did a video for One Eye Jack's new song, Dawn of a New Day. Has anyone here seen and listened to Dawn of a New Day? If you have not, you have to. And I'll post a link. But I worked on an animation using Sora AI, so it's text to video. And I'm convinced now that we can do South Pole again. South Pole was just difficult in terms of labor, because originally we had so many people working on it that everybody's animating on their phones and their computers, and we kind of lost that original group of animators. And I think AI, we can pretty much do it. We can do it. We have the voices, we have the talent. And when I was looking at Billy Ray Cyrus on the stage, I remember that we had this scene in South Pole where it's his birthday and he lives out in the woods. And this is a true story, I think. So, because Miley Cyrus brought him a bathtub full of bubble gum, like little bubblegum balls for his birthday, if you recall that weird story. Very strange. Billy Ray Cyrus in the woods bathing in a bath full of bubble gum. And so we did this animation where Miley brings him a pizza, and of course it's got legs, and he's chasing it, and it's his birthday, he's hitting a crack pipe, and it's kind of funny because we had him as a crack smoker in the woods, with and here he is on TV, like having this kind of a drug-addled meltdown. So I thought of that scene from South Pole when I saw him, and then Salty Siren actually remixed that scene and put some new vocals in to make it contemporary. And one of the things about South Pole is it's always been contemporary, even prescient. Like one idea behind it, it's not just entertainment. We have some ideas on what's going to happen. So let's put it into cartoons. Let's put our predictions into cartoons like the space junk stuff we did. We had the scene with helmet Karens, guilt tripping people who aren't wearing helmets. So, we're ahead of the curve here. Conscious Reality says Palestine and Palisades, any correlation? Very good call. Very good call. Because remember, East Palestine was a huge part of the story with white noise. Okay, this is deep because you got white noise with a train derailment, a toxic airborne event in Ohio, and then it happens in East Palestine, which, again, the Palestine thing, it happens in Ohio, the heart of it all, the heart of the nation, like Israel, heart of a nation. There's some correlation here. But the mushroom cloud from white noise looked just like the one that happened in real life. And you had overlapping actors from the movie who had to evacuate from the areas where they actually lived. So this was kind of a pretty big hit as far as predictive concurrent programming. The main character, Adam Driver, plays Caesar in Megalopolis, a Trump reference. So you have this connection between Trump and the head wound, the assassination attempt in Butler, and then 42 miles away, East Palestine, the nuke event. There's this pairing between these two events, the head wound and the nuke. But anyway, white noise had this correlation with this place, East Palestine, which I suggest then obviously refers to the Middle East or to Israel. And here we have Palestine and Palisades. I would say there is a connection. And then in addition to this, you have the whole thing with the homestead and Los Angeles getting nuked and this movie being put out there right as the fires start. I mean, looking at this thing in retrospect, it's clear how much of it was hype and psyop. I mean, look at how many people freaked out over a drone invasion that didn't even happen. It's all rumor. And I've seen videos of people walking around recording the Hollywood sign, just amazed that it didn't burn down, because they're getting their information from Twitter, from AI, from people sharing stuff and rumors. Lean Dion says, Dave Chappelle directly finished his new SNL set saying from Palestine to Palisades. Fascinating. Fascinating. And Dave Chappelle had a lot to say about George Floyd and Kobe Bryant. And I just remembered Kobe Bryant's death day was 128. 128 a.m. is when the Dolly hit the bridge, the Francis Scott Key, with all kinds of national anthem connections there. It goes pretty deep. But 128, 12:8, Leave the World Behind comes out, 10:28. There's these codes that I want to kind of get into doing specific deep dives on because they're so consistent. But I think there's something very significant about some of these numbers that you can use them as, 33, for example. This is a joke to us at this point. It's not cognitive bias. We couldn't manufacture this from any random, some kind of internal signal, in my opinion, order out of chaos, some kind of reference. Like, think about this. If you had the Illuminati playbook and you knew how everything worked, you would be able to look at the headlines, the newspapers, with a different perspective. You would know, oh, this is a hoax to make the sheeple do this, and this hoax will make them do that. Like, you would know how it works, about the manipulation of the masses by this invisible government. And this is what Edward Bernays wrote about, like almost 100 years ago. And I'm suggesting here that a lot of what we've picked up on isn't stuff that's been served to us from Trutherville. It's not like we were told this stuff from the big channels who just give you the usual alt media takes, but rather this is stuff that we've discerned through human intel, just noticing patterns, and these patterns exist. And in my opinion, you can take the pattern and extrapolate meaning from it if it's consistent and predictable. And we have actually observed consistent patterns. In my opinion, 33 is kind of the calling card for hoax, order out of chaos, problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectics, etc. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, his special was called 846. 846 is a big one. 9/11 kicks off at 8:46 a.m. Then you have George Floyd kneeled on 8:46. The sun set in the Twin Cities on 5/25/2020. at 8:46. 9/11 kicks off at 8:46 as Mercury is rising, which has some significance there. And then that number, 8:46, you had this guy named Jayland Walker in the same area, and I think he was in Dayton, or Akron, Ohio. Jayland Walker, who was shot by 8 cops 46 times. So this 846 has been consistently connected to, a lot of it's been, I'd call it the 9/11ing stuff, big fractures. So it's a very significant number, and we found variations of it where it's like, you got this individual named Amir Locke. And so a mirror, just the word of like a mirror, and Locke. Well, he was killed in a no-knock warrant blunder where the police just went in and shot the guy. But he was killed at, and again, it's the mirror thing, so you have 846. Well, he was killed at 6:48. So you have Twin Cities, his name was a mirror, and then the Locke tied into it. He was 22 years old, and he was killed on 2/2/2022. And so the two, the duality, the twin, the symbolism is pretty consistent. Twin Towers, 846. Twin Cities, George Floyd, and then his twin comes out. This twin stuff was a reoccurring theme. And there's a $20 bill, which of course $20 bill means twin 10. And on the back of the $20 bill, you have the Twin Towers burning, if you know how to fold it right. But the sun setting at 8:46 on the day that George Floyd is killed, and they said 8:46, that is significant because it refers to the ritual that they were actually performing, what you saw with Floyd and the kneeling. It ties into the martyrdom of Hiram Abiff. Martyrdom is a huge theme here. In fact, I have this code I want to put into a deep dive having to do with the name like Tyree or Tyr. All goes back to Trayvon Martin and the martyr thing and Hiram Abiff. It goes back, but it connects almost every single one of these events. I mean, it's kind of it's predictable. Like, how many times, you shouldn't be able to answer these questions. How many times was Rodney King hit with a baton? And what I recently learned about that particular event is that that footage has a direct connection to James Cameron. So James Cameron is filming Terminator 2 about what? An evil cop. I mean, major role reversal here, where the cop's now suddenly the villain, the bad guy. So he's filming a movie about this evil cop, and this man named, I think his name is George Holliday, is just filming the filming of Terminator 2. He's a bystander. And he's like, oh, he's filming an action movie. So he's recording this on his camera. As he's leaving, going away from the Terminator 2 movie set, he happens to pass by Rodney King getting beaten up by evil cops. So the footage that sparked the LA riots was on the same tape that contained Terminator 2. So this James Cameron connection to the LA riots, kind of intriguing. And there's some deeper connections between James Cameron's Avatar series, Avatar 2, and the Cop City riots in Atlanta. So one of my contentions here is that these big directors are also big government propagandists. Demystify it, predictive programming is government propaganda. These movies are meant to help foment social changes, to create attitudes and spread narratives, memes, paint the zeitgeist. But they're all enlisted in this. Yeah, 33 times for 1 minute, 19 seconds. Now, at the beginning of the year, or last year, Tyree Nichols was beaten up by this group of cops, totally staged, but it was staged to look just like the Rodney King beating. They compared it to that. And then Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter shows up to the protests, and then they have the eulogy at Mason Temple, where MLK Jr. gave his final speech before he was assassinated. So there's this fascinating storyline here connecting, again, Tyree Nichols and the King stuff is a recurring theme as well. But I have to mind map this stuff out. We have to mind map it out so you can kind of see and discern the patterns, and it shouldn't be this predictable, but it is. And what one of the things I can kind of unequivocally say is that there's this dialectic between 33 and 42. And the number 42 is connected to certain concepts of, like light and dark, up and down. You have the light and matter, these polarities, but these opposites. And so the 42 usually contains the idea of dark, of falling, even like the whole cube Saturn stuff, death, gravity. Whereas the 33 has to do with ascension, light, ascension, fire. So there's like this consistent theme here that is being suggested, and it has to do with the fracturing of our minds, of society, this uh, perpetual war. Because what they've done is they've taken this political horseshoe, which should be, it's a theory, political horseshoe theory, but it's actually a model. And what I find incredible here is a compartmentalization, that people are so perfectly split down the middle. It's perfect. I mean, I can look at that Luigi Mangione and just show you. There's some examples here where how is it that the political left has been lockstep in love with Luigi and totally cool with the murder of a CEO? Like that's predictable stuff, and it shouldn't be. But people are programmed. There's no other explanation, and it's consistent. I noticed this dialectic with like attitudes towards borders, attitude towards the vax, towards guns, and how these things are perfectly split down the middle. Where if you take a position on the world stage on any one of these political footballs, you end up absorbing a cluster of beliefs. You end up taking a side that's that includes everything else along with it. It's really intriguing. Like it really struck me when Tucker Carlson was warning us about illegal aliens from far away and how they're nefarious. There's this intention of invading and replacing and all this stuff. Like they're killers. So he's hyping up the xenophobia, and he's specifically he's talking about from Africa. So you have this theme here, right? Aliens or illegal aliens, Africa, danger, threat. Then the next story, he's talking about how his friend at the Pentagon told him that aliens are real and that they're dark, they're scary, and they are working with the Democrats because they've made secret deals with the government, basically, the deep state, in other words, which is code for Democrat. So he's hyping scary extraterrestrials, which he says are actually demons. So illegal aliens and extraterrestrial aliens are being put in the same framework as threats. And who is to protect you from these threats? Well, Trump, build the wall. Trump, Space Force. And if you believe in aliens, well, then you need the military geared towards that. And a lot of non-ers think Space Force is protecting us from aliens. So you have Trump build the wall, and then, of course, the Space Force would correlate to the alien thing. And these attitudes are consistent. Now, flip to the other side. How does the left view aliens? They love illegal aliens. They're all for open borders. They open their doors. How do they feel about aliens? The left progressive utopianism sees aliens as angels, as advanced humans. They believe in them. They think it's unscientific not to believe in them. So aliens are an angel for the progressive utopians. And it's just perfectly down the middle. Why does the left love aliens, extraterrestrial and terrestrial, and why is the right xenophobic about both? It's because of this basic schism. Bach says Elvis was 42 when he died. Yeah, and Elvis, the Space Needle stuff we had to get into as well. Because, Seattle, Washington, 42nd state, Space Needle, 42-second elevator ride to the top. The UFO, which if you add the letters UFO, and I'm not into gematria necessarily, but it does add to 42. The UFO at the top of the Space Needle, when you go up the 42-second ride, is 42 meters in diameter. And I found more, quite a lot more. So the 42 ties into the idea of L, Saturn, or the idea of falling, like as in gravity, fallen angels, the man who fell to earth. There's these consistent correlations. Starman, remember Starman, the whole Tesla Roadster thing that Musk sent up into space, and the character, the effigy, represented David Bowie, who interestingly has Elvis's birthday. Elvis never died; he just went home. Men in Black. Yeah, Elvis is an interesting character. I mean, we were just watching this in Discord. I was comparing these. I'm doing a video on it. In Megalopolis, there is a scene where Elvis is performing America the Beautiful while wrapped in an American flag. And it takes place around Saturnalia, around Christmas. Well, think about it. America the Beautiful was the song that Trump was serenaded with at his first inauguration. So Trump goes to D.C. with Melania, and who do they see? They see an Elvis impersonator in front of that Elvis comeback sign, who sings a few bars to them. And I was looking at that sign because you remember the Elvis comeback sign was the name Elvis, big capital letters spelled out in lights. Trump came out to something very similar at the DNC when he had the ear bandage on. So he has the head wound, he comes back, the comeback, first time you see him, and it's this big Trump, just like Elvis. These Elvis connections are intriguing. Conscious Reality says, if you can, Tim, find the deep fake of Trump doing a scene from the movie Independence Day. It's uncanny how real it looks. Roland Emmerich, Independence Day. There was a lot of people after 9/11 who were saying it was just like Independence Day. And there was some philosopher I used to listen to, like, I'll have to dig up his material, who talked about the frame of reference the media gave us to interpret this alien threat and how the movie would lead you to, in the movie they gather around the leader, and it was similar to how everyone gathered around Bush. Roland Emmerich recently did Moonfall, which has got the moon falling, space junk, the atmosphere being destroyed, all kinds of interesting subtext. But Roland Emmerich, again, he did the movie that provided predictive programming for 9/11 and a lot of the visuals. So when I saw him doing Moonfall, I thought, you know what? We're about to enter the age of space junk. And it's happened. I mean, just recently, airlines are having to divert to dodge space junk. It's ludicrous. But this stuff's only made possible because they put it in the movies. By the way, Moonfall is a hilarious movie. And the main character is played by an actor who happens to be 33. And, it's got some Kubrick nods. It's got AI stuff, it's got all kinds of weird Saturn stuff. If you haven't seen Moonfall, it has some ridiculous scenes, like the space shuttle launching and the tidal wave hits it, so it blasts out of the water. And I'm in the movie theater, like, laughing at this, and everybody else is, like, cheering because they think it's real. But I noticed that in movies, they almost make the space stuff look a little faker than they should because they don't want to outdo NASA, because that might give away the game. Wayne Dion says the word resurrection has been used by media regarding Trump's return to office. Same thing with zombie. Trump lives, says Salty Siren. Joe Santos says, if you look at Donald Duck's head upside down long enough, it looks like Trump's cartoon head. I've seen it. Trump is one of the most scripted individuals that we've ever confronted. See, here's my basic take is this. Fake news is how the power elite write history day by day. And history isn't just an account of the weather and things that happen organically. It's largely what they focus on, but it's also what they create. And they don't make it up as they go. It's not a day-to-day thing. This is long-term strategy. This is how the few control the multitudes. So they say we need this century to be characterized by this particular struggle. Capitalism and communism. These are the basic themes. Climate change, the effect of the Industrial Revolution, our technology, our carbon footprints, etc. And they introduce this entire new worldview over time. We have a neo-eschatology in the form of climate change. And they write these things so far in advance that I think it's relatively easy to then control the nuances. But to carry out these agendas, they need people on the world stage. Now, we all know that crisis actors exist. Well, crisis actors aren't just people who smile at the camera and talk about the latest school shooting. A lot of these actors have more what you could call lifetime roles. Like for your entire life, you're going to exist on the world stage and you're going to follow our direction covertly. It's not that difficult to conceive of a lifetime crisis actor. So Donald Trump, for all intents and purposes, is an act. We're in season 35 of The Apprentice. It never ended. There's no reason to think any of this stuff is organic. Why would it suddenly become real if any part of it's been fake? It'd be a continuity flaw. It's fakery is the rule, not the exception. So the Trump headwind thing was planned a long time ago, and it's not over yet. But this is planned a long time ago, and he's just playing out a role. So you could call him a historic personage. Elon Musk is playing out a role. So it's just like in a movie, but instead of a movie set, it's on the world stage. So it's performed like reality TV. So you control history by controlling the media and then manufacturing events, historic characters. I call it the PSYOP entertainment complex because they use entertainment as a way of transfixing your attention and directing you, creating an entire worldview. I say that the military industrial complex is a fiction of the PSYOP entertainment complex. There's this old conspiracy theory. It's not even new at all. That Napoleon Bonaparte is just an allegory for the sun. It's a compelling argument, his 12 generals, 12 months, and it makes perfect sense. But it doesn't mean that he didn't exist. It means that this idea of historic roles may not even be new, and we're just experiencing the latest iteration of it. And the thing about the world stage is they perform it in front of us, we internalize it. This is the Truman Show they put in your head. Lean Dion says he's their best, most compelling character in decades. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the main things about this whole thing is that it's a reality TV show pretending to be news. I mean, there is real news, obviously, but the main stories, the things that drive the big narratives, are largely fictions. And the presidents have always been a part of this. And whoever's behind it, the invisible government, I don't know. Appreciate that very much, Thirst for Truth. And I want to say thanks again to everyone who helped me replace this computer. I paid for it with all super chats. The last one was infested with gremlins, but this one is great. We're just dark right now because I haven't had time to set up the OBS, but I'm going to do that tonight. So we'll be back on tomorrow. I don't have a lot more time this evening, but I'm glad to be back on. We are going to have a regular schedule as well. Plain Dakota says, looks like Barron is being groomed to be a big character in the coming years. Yeah, the fan fiction for him is off the charts. I mean, but he does look bizarrely like Ingersoll Lockwood's Barron Trump. It's all too weird. Like, it's not, like, I'm not knocking the Q people because they're no more delusional than the wokesters. But what I am pointing out is that it's not grassroots. It's not organic. It didn't just happen. I don't know how far back the Q story goes, but the idea of JFK Jr. coming back to life, I mean, this has got to be the work of Kubrick. If JFK's death was fake and staged, what about RFK? I mean, why assume any of these assassinations to be real? Okay, let's see here. I think I have to run off here in a moment, unfortunately. Just scroll to my minds.com/infinite plane society. Yes, so I have a president launches crypto at inauguration, makes 58 billion. We have to get into the 58 thing. That's pretty deep. I'll do some number stuff. We'll talk about the Trump Elvis impersonator. And I have a ton of clips. And there's one clip where Trump is, okay, now this is a big one. When Trump suggests that Elon Musk is really smart with computers and helped him win the election, it sounds bad. And people are saying, yeah, he helped steal the election. Well, that's the theme, or that's rather the plot in The Madness, that the Elon Musk-esque billionaire finances online right-wing extremists and got the president into office by cheating. So he gets killed at the end and everybody's happy about it. So it's kind of interesting because this, if you haven't seen The Madness, the billionaire is Musk, Lauren Jennings is Laura Loomer, and Brother 14, leader of the Forge, is an amalgamation of Nick Fuentes and Stu Peters. These Netflix movies are propaganda movies, and their characters correlate to world stage characters and what they actually do on the world stage. That's why the character in the movie uses a 3D printed gun just like Luigi. It has some specific connotations if you've seen The Madness. And again, The Madness is about mind viruses coming from the internet causing violence. And one of the main characters, this FBI agent, says his brother caught the madness. So the madness refers to disease X, to Elon Musk, to Twitter, to Stu Peters and Nick Fuentes, and the hate they spread that causes real life violence. That's what the madness is ultimately about. Girl says, while we're micro-analyzing movies and TV scripts, they're plundering everything. What are they plundering exactly? Nukes are fake. I mean, you should be sleeping better. You're not going to worry about fallout. Pandemics are fake. There's no bowl cut shooters. Really, there's no planet killing asteroids. There's no deep state. There's no adrenochrome junkies trafficking children under the tunnels. That's all fantasy. Chemtrails don't exist, and 5G towers are safe. So we're not micro-analyzing movies. We're reading the script of the power elite that they're implementing all around us. That's why we were able to predict the Trump head wound, and we predicted it was fake. We're not sitting here on the edges of our seats waiting for the end because we know it doesn't end. We know it's the PSYOP entertainment complex. There is no military industrial complex. So I think it's a very positive thing. No need to maintain this heightened state of alertness, which is not even necessary. I mean, I don't even try to wake up the blue pillars because if their ignorance is bliss, let them have it. Because what's the alternative? They get red pilled or woke, which is extremely agitated. And that's where Trutherville's at. I'm not in Trutherville. Laser says, well, you got to admit they've got some big bombs. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. The main thing to worry about is the believers. You have to realize we live in a global religious cult. It's a doomsday cult. And if everybody is told to put on a tinfoil hat, you're going to have to put on a tinfoil hat. If everybody decides that we need to do drills for space junk, we're all going to have to do it. We're all going to duck and cover. So the main weapon of the power elite are the masses they control, the robots out there who just go lockstep with every bit of programming. So that's my main thing here is I like to know what kind of programming is going into these minds, and you can kind of read where things are going. In fact, in Leave the World Behind, they call it the curve, reading the curve. But anyway, no, there's absolutely nothing to worry about. Buy more popcorn, sell your ammo. The world's not going to end. And the worst things that people are afraid of don't even exist. I wish I had worse news for you all. I wish I could say I believe that Apophis 99942 is actually going to kill us all in 2029 on some Friday the 13th. I think it's in April. But it's not going to happen. All right, we'll have a follow-up tomorrow, and everything will be in working order, and I will have phones on. So thanks, everyone, for joining, and have a great evening.